What if I told you that the deadliest disease in human history didn't stop in medieval Europe? That it crossed oceans, passed through American ports, and collapsed entire cities, without wars, without bombs, without warning. This is not a theory. This is documented history. At the dawn of the 20th century, America believed it had escaped the nightmares of the past. The Black Death, the plague that once erased entire civilizations, was considered an old European horror, something buried in history books. The United States saw itself as modern, scientific, and untouchable. But the plague never vanished. It waited, hidden inside fleas, carried by rats, traveling silently inside cargo ships crossing the Pacific. In 1900, ships arrived daily at American ports, San Francisco, Honolulu, and others, bringing goods, passengers, and something far more dangerous. Dock workers began collapsing. Entire families fell sick overnight. Fevers burned. Lymph nodes swelled. Death followed fast. Doctors were confused. Officials denied everything. Newspapers avoided panic, because saying the truth would mean admitting one impossible fact. The Black Death had reached America. San Francisco became the center of a nightmare no one wanted to acknowledge. The outbreak began in Chinatown, crowded, poor, and politically convenient to blame. When Chinese residents started dying at alarming rates, authorities didn't declare an emergency. Instead, they denied the plague's existence completely. Why? Because admitting it would shut down trade, collapse the economy, and expose government failure. So the city chose silence. Doctors who confirmed plague bacteria were threatened. Reports were buried. Bodies were removed quietly at night. Entire neighborhoods were secretly quarantined while officials publicly claimed everything was under control. But disease does not obey politics. Rats multiplied. Fleas spread. The infection moved beyond Chinatown, reaching white neighborhoods, dock workers, and railway hubs. Fear finally exploded when healthy citizens started dying. By the time the truth could no longer be hidden, it was already too late. Businesses closed. Travel stopped. Entire districts were sealed. Panic took over the city. America was facing the same enemy that once destroyed medieval Europe. Only this time, denial made it deadlier. And San Francisco was just the beginning. Once denial collapsed, fear took control. Local governments realized something terrifying. The disease was spreading faster than they could track it. And so, America did something it had never done before on this scale. It turned cities into prisons. Entire neighborhoods were sealed overnight. Armed guards blocked streets. Families were locked inside their homes with no warning, no explanation, and no guarantee of survival. Food was sometimes delayed for days. The sick and the healthy were trapped together. In San Francisco, officials enforced racial quarantines, isolating Chinese residents first, claiming they were the source of the plague. These actions were not only medically ineffective, they were fueled by fear and discrimination rather than science. But the plague didn't care about borders, race, or law. It spread through rat-infested warehouses, railway lines, and cargo ships moving inland. Cases appeared in Oakland, Los Angeles, and even rural areas. The disease was no longer a local problem. It was a national threat. Doctors finally pushed back. Federal health officials intervened. Laboratories confirmed what politicians had denied for years. Yersinia pestis, the same bacteria responsible for medieval Black Death, was active in the United States. Emergency measures were rushed into place, rat extermination programs, citywide sanitation, and public health campaigns unlike anything America had seen before. But the damage was already done. Trust was broken, cities were traumatized, and the illusion of safety was gone forever. The real danger wasn't just the disease. It was the collapse of urban life. Ports shut down. Trade routes were frozen. Workers fled cities in fear, leaving factories silent and streets empty. Hospitals overflowed. Funeral services couldn't keep up with the dead. In some areas, entire buildings were burned, not because they were infected, but because officials believed fire was the only way to stop the spread. Families lost everything overnight, not to plague alone, but to panic-driven policy. Public health systems were overwhelmed. This was America's first true test against a modern epidemic, and it nearly failed. What saved the cities wasn't denial or force. It was science. Researchers finally understood the plague's transmission. Rats were targeted. Flea populations were controlled. Sanitation transformed urban infrastructure. Sewer systems were redesigned. Housing codes were rewritten. Slowly, painfully, the spread stopped. But the Black Death never truly left America. Even today, small outbreaks still appear in rural regions of the Western United States, silent reminders that this ancient killer is not a myth, not a medieval legend, but a real disease that once brought American cities to the edge of collapse. And almost no one remembers it. When the headlines faded and the quarantine walls came down, America wanted to forget. There were no national memorials, no history books taught in schools about cities nearly collapsing under an ancient disease. The Black Death didn't fit the American narrative of progress and invincibility, so it was quietly buried. But its impact never disappeared. The plague fundamentally reshaped how American cities functioned. For the first time, public health became a permanent responsibility of government, not a temporary emergency response. City sanitation departments were expanded. Waste management was modernized. Building regulations changed to reduce overcrowding. Rodent control became a public policy priority. These reforms didn't just fight plague. They became the foundation of modern, urban America. Yet the most haunting truth is this: the Black Death never left the country. Even today, cases of plague still appear in the western United States, especially in rural areas near rodent populations. Modern antibiotics keep it from spreading the way it once did. But the bacteria is still alive, still present, still waiting. What the Black Death in America proved was something far more unsettling than mass death. It proved that denial can be deadlier than disease, that politics can slow life-saving action, and that cities, no matter how advanced, are only as strong as their weakest systems. America survived the Black Death not because it was immune, but because it was forced to change. And the next time a disease emerges, the question won't be whether history warned us. The question will be whether we listened.